So we move on to the next letter. This seems to be like a delegation letter. So it says here, dear Building Better Leaders, here's my challenge. I have a team of capable people, but they don't think the way I do. I'm strategic and fast-paced. I see the big picture quickly, anticipate problems, and plan 5 steps ahead. Some of my team members are more detail-oriented or methodical. Others are more reactive. And while I value diversity of thinking, I find myself getting frustrated when they don't approach problems like I would or just don't move as fast. When I delegate, I either over-explain or under-communicate. Sometimes I jump back in because it's easier if I just do it. And that's not fair to them, but it's also not sustainable for me. How do I let go? How do I delegate effectively and trust people who don't think, plan, or work like I do? Any thoughts on how do we approach this letter writer?
I think it's difficult to expect people to work the way we would work sometimes in a certain way, and I think that we need to be able to give the bandwidth to people to achieve the same goals but not necessarily using the same way. Because everyone has a different skill set, right? Managers, like good managers are not good sales managers, are not good salespeople. So everyone's skill set is really very very different, and if we truly value the diversity of thinking or diversity of skill sets, then we have to be able to recognize this, and letting go is difficult, but it just works like every other thing in life. you know at first, it's the first few steps of letting go is difficult, but once you see that, okay, it doesn't, nothing really big screws up as bad as you thought it would be, then you slowly let go more and more and more, and before that, you're just comfortable walking without holding onto a railing, and so that most difficult part is that forcing yourself to break through, and you have to do it, lah. You have to force yourself to break through, because if you don't, right, then that means you're never giving trust to your team. And if you don't give trust to someone, you cannot ask for trust in return. It just doesn't work that way, lah.
I wonder, was there a time in when you were running your businesses before where you have a very clear vision of how things that should be done, but when you delegate it to people that you trust, somehow it didn't turn out to be how it is? And how
Yes,
do you kind of like reconcile those
yes.
moments?
But then I keep trying, right? Then I realize, okay, maybe I need to coach this, I need to coach that, and I keep trying. And ultimately, then how I totally let go? I realized that how when I truly let go and I get the right people in and they get it right, of course, sometimes they still get it wrong, right? But when they get it right, 7 out of 10 times, they get it done better than I would have done it myself.
Oh, wow.
And that's how then not only do it is no then it becomes no longer like force for me to let go, but kind of like, oh shit, actually, I should just let go because they're just better than I am.
Okay. I as reading the letter, I think first thing I would like to thank I would like to probably appreciate the letter writer, the fact that this person has very high self-awareness, that they know that they have to delegate. In fact, it says here that when I delegate, so this person is trying to delegate, right? And is trying to figure out how to delegate. I think the problem is right now it's just that it's not coming out or turning out to be exactly how he or she wants it to be. So, and then this person uses words like, they are very strategic, while the rest are not strategic in this case, right? So if I'm going to be coaching this person face to face or so-called one-on-one in this case, I'll probably be asking this person like what the strategic means to you, because they may have a certain idea of what strategic here means to them, and they may be unable to articulate very clearly to their people what is his or her vision about strategy, right? In this case, so I think there's 3 areas I'm thinking of right now that this person is possibly could be facing. One, what you just said just now, unable to let go, right? And the fact that it's something they had to deal with. So again, if I'm coaching this person, I'll probably be asking this person, where is this coming from, right? There's this need to hold things. So that is one area they need to deal with, and also to be able to help this person to see that there's wisdom in the room lah, and not to be able to hang on to everything. Like you said, 7 out of 10 times, the team actually does it much better when you learn how to let go. I think that bit this person have to go through. That's one. I think the second thing is also learning what to delegate. Perhaps learning what to delegate. May not this person. I wonder if this person actually know what to delegate or not. Right? Like when this they have to hold on to things that need to done. They have to do it themselves, and when to actually delegate certain things. And then the third thing is also how to delegate, which means learning how to set the expectations. I think this letter writer says that they don't move as fast. I think some things are quite tangible, as in you can measure it very quickly. Like for example, moving quick and fast and so on. Those things is easy to measure, easy to explain to the team. To say like for example, all letters, all emails that come in, needs to be replied within 24 hours, right? So those things can be set. I think the non-definitive so-called expectation is the one which is sometimes very tricky. So when, for example, when we tell our team members, oh, you need to be more proactive, right? Or you need to be much more strategic, you need to be much more creative and so on. Actually, what does creative means? What does strategic means, right? So you have a point of view about that, but they may have a different point of view about that. I think that is where, as a manager, need to be able to break down a bit more on exactly what does it mean, for example, to be much more proactive in this case.
Okay, so when someone says like something like that, lah, right? It indicates a little bit of lack of self-awareness. But at the
Oh,
same time, like sometimes, like because like, oh yeah, what? It's almost like okay, it's a bit of a superiority complex, right? Because like I think I'm strategic, but you're not. But what does strategic mean? It's very vague. Like they could think it's strategic. How do you define that? You know, it indicates a lack of self-awareness. But at the same time, how, if I'm trying to convince this person and answer this letter and convince this person, right, calling this out here is just going to like put him in a defensive mode and turn him off, and he's just going to stop listening. So it's also like a difficult thing, like okay, um am I trying to help this person, or am I trying to, and it's impossible for me to help this person in this self-awareness way through like him watching it one directionally like that. It's something I have to be able to coach. So if I coach him, then I'll be like, yeah, why do you say that? Oh, yeah, like you say, what strategic mean to you? How do you know they're not strategic?
yeah.
How do you know you are? And then coach that, I see. But that's just impossible to deliver here.
Okay. I think this is where, if like I said earlier on, I would probably ask, what does being strategic means to you? Because they would have a definition of what strategic means to them. This is a true story, right? So this happens a lot of times, especially in those days, advertising agency days, right? The especially the newer team members, when there is no update to update the client, they won't update the client. So that is the problem, right? So we always learn that even though there's no update to the client, you still have to update the client to say that there's no update, and then to give a possible date, right, on when the client should be expecting some kind of updates in this case. But the newer folks usually they say, oh, but I don't need to update that because there's nothing much to update, so no need to update the client in this case, right? So then the conclusion is that the feedback that the manager will give is that, oh, you're not proactive. So I think it also could be a blind spot for newer team members in this case, because they do not know that, because in their mind it's like, if there's no update, why do I need to waste time updating, right? So this is where we need to break down the exact indicators of what it means to be, in this case, let's say proactive. So for example, let's say if I'm the manager, when I say that, hey, you need to be a proactive. Proactive here means this. For example, when there is no update to the client on this particular activity, you should still be updating the client to say, hey, we're waiting for updates. There's none for now, but please expect that progress will come in probably tomorrow, in this case, right? Rather than just keeping silent about it. So by doing this, you are demonstrating that you are proactive. So then when the person actually does it, then you kind of like pat the shoulder and just say that, great. No, I think this is what I mean by being proactive. So I think these little progress indicators, especially when it comes to behavior, it's very important to be able to help them to define, if not big words like strategic, proactive, creative. Those things sometimes they may not, they can't figure out like what do you mean by being creative. In fact, sometimes it may even backfire. They may say that what do you mean by not creative? I am creative. I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and so on. But the leader is unable to articulate very clearly what exactly the actions that needs to be done in order for what it means by creative. And that's kind of like one of those things that keeps coming up usually when I do workshops and so on. They kind of say that I don't understand my people. I already told them to be creative, but they're not creative. I told them to speak up, but they don't speak up. I think we have to sometimes help them to be a bit much more granular on exactly what actions that needs to be done. So this is where I was saying about setting the expectation. Any thoughts about this approach?
That would be me
Or are we
last
being
time.
too micro?
That would be me last time. Oh, you should be more proactive and everything. That I would give feedback like that. But actually, right, that is also not an effective way to manage, right? So why is it not an effective way to manage? Number one, we're assuming that being proactive is this desirable thing that everybody wants to be, where and it's actually being proactive is actually a symptom, not really addressing the core issue. A right way to give feedback for manager, right, is this framework called SBI, Situation Behavior Impact. Situation first is you haven't heard back from the vendor, right, for 1 week, and so the client followed up with you. Your behavior is that you didn't follow up with the client before that and tell the client, hey, by the way, I'm still waiting on the vendor, I just followed up on this. The impact of this is that it makes the client feel that you don't have a handle on this thing. It's always important to address what the impact and the consequence are or is, rather than a symptom of it, which is, oh, you're not proactive. But so what does proactive mean to me on a singular human level? So I think that in anything like that, it's important. You're not creative enough, right? You're not creative enough, right? The problem with that, right, is that you can't give feedback, right, that is too vague. What does creative mean? Like creative isn't what one person considers creative is not another person's creative. So imagine giving feedback based on that. It's something that is not actionable. Can somebody just flick a switch now and just say, okay, I'm going to be creative now? You can't, So I wouldn't do that, lah. I wouldn't say that you should be more creative or anything like that. Instead, you can say other things. You can say like, yeah, how about an idea that hasn't been proposed before? That's something that is binary. It's an idea has been proposed, has not been proposed. An idea has been done or not done before. Right? How about and don't say like creative, don't say like, oh, out of the box and all that shit. That's all completely
Yeah.
bullshit. Because it's just not actionable. Imagine receiving that feedback, you just don't know what the fuck to say. So remember that one of the most important things as a manager, the most important tools is giving feedback.
Yeah.
And giving feedback isn't just telling, oh, I tell you more creative, telling you're creative. That's not communicating. Telling is not communicating. Communicating is both sides, right? So after I tell, do you understand? And does this person truly understand, or this person just saying they understand? And so it's your job as manager to make sure it's truly understand the consequence of your action. It's truly understood that when you ask them follow-up questions to that to test their understanding of it, they understand it. And if they're not doing it, then what's the job of the manager? The job of the manager isn't to tell you again or remind you again. Fuck that. That's not a good manager.
Yeah.
A good manager is to assess, is this a will issue or is this a skill issue? Why are you not doing this? right? And then dig down into that and see whether the issue can be solved or can't be solved. And if it can't be solved, then then a greater tool may be needed to address this issue.
Okay, okay, got it. Okay, let's come to a close for this letter. I think let's do a quick recap of what at least I picked up from the conversation that we're having. Is that I think the first thing is this person probably needs to have a little bit more whether or not this person have self-awareness. We have to ask them, like for example, what this he or she mean by being strategic or not strategic, and from then onwards, I think it's about like so-called equipping this person with tools to be able to communicate his or her expectation to the people. So, like for example, you used the tool SBI, right, which is situation, behavior, and impact. Reason being, I think especially for behaviors which are very vague. For example, we talk about being creative, right? So you're not creative in this case. I think it's very important to be able to be much more binary. So by having the SBI framework, the communication, you say that this is the situation and this is the behavior that you have demonstrated. And I think a lot of times, like what you said, people do not spend a lot of time on the impact bit, right? To kind of say this is the impact if you do this or don't do this, these are the consequences. So based on this, what would you be how would you actually approach this case? So you kind of open a conversation, like you say, it's just not one-sided, but to have the to and fro conversation. So once the person kind of understand, for example, oh, I need to be creative here means to do these things, then you talk about to then so-called be accountable, right? So to get this person to say, okay, so what do you understand? So based on your understanding, so what are you going to do about it? And then after that, to kind of like check in with them again later on, right? Whether or not they actually carry it out or not. If they carry it out, then great. Then that's where you kind of like congratulate them and say, hey, this is what we're looking for in terms of when we talk about creative in this case. You've done it exactly. Good job, right? But if they don't carry it out based on what they said they would do, then you talk about evaluating, is it a skill issue or is it a will issue? Then from then onwards, you recoach again. So that's kind of like what I got from the this conversation.